Hi everyone, Gary here from Echidna Sewing, and today I want to show you and talk about one of my favorite embroidery related products, and that's the Towa digital tension gauge. So for us, the Towa digital tension gauge is an absolute lifesaver for helping people set the tensions, and particularly on the multi-needle embroidery machines. And that, in fact, that's the reason we first started selling this amazing product. But we soon realized there was a market for customers to not only use it on a multi-needle commercial style machine, but there was also a big market for domestic drop-in bobbin type machines, which of course we sell a lot of, and helping people to understand their bobbin tension. And this truly is the best device for doing that and making sure your bobbin tension is set, because if your bobbin tension isn't correct, it's hard to get anything right on an embroidery machine. So let's have a closer look at the product and then we'll show you how it actually works. So the one on my left here, this is the standard Towa tension gauge. It's got the standard adapter that comes with the gauge, and that's the L style adapter, and that is in the unit when you take delivery of it. And that is ideally, of course, for multi-needle machines like the Brother PR series, the Halo, the Tajimas, Barretons, all the machines that are on the market that use an L style bobbin case. That's the one we actually use. The one on my right here, it's got one of the adapters that we designed and created to make this product quite useful for the domestic market too, and that is the people with drop-in bobbin machines like, as I said, like the Brother, etc., or that have a bobbin case that looks like this. So this is your standard, I'll move that across there a little bit, gain a bit of space. This is a standard drop-in bobbin case out of a Brother machine. And the bobbin cases for most other brands are very similar. They all have a similar style. And if we have a look at this guy here, the way it works on here is the bobbin case, we take it out of the machine and we just sit it in the little cradle like that. And I'm going to show you how that works in a moment. But before I do, I just want to mention we've been selling this product and these adapters for quite some time. And a couple of years ago, might even be 3 years ago, the design of the Towa gauge changed ever so slightly, and there is a good chance, and if I take this little guy out here, I'm just going to get my screwdriver and unhook this. There is a good chance if you already have one of these products, or you've seen some videos, you will notice that the adapter that we supply has now changed. This is the original adapter we made, and you can see it's quite flat there, and this is now the new adapter. And it's quite different in design and shape. And we had to do that because, unbeknownst to us, at some point when Towa must have made a slight change to the actual diameter of this section here where the bobbin case goes into, and the bobbin cases now don't actually fall into that hole. So the old adapter was, of course, no longer any good to us. So we designed the new one, and it works a treat. So if you've got an old one and you're watching this video, don't panic. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to buy a new adapter. It will still work. So let's take a closer look at how they actually work. Now the first product I'm going to talk about is the standard L-style bobbin case. So I'm going to move that one out the way for a minute. We're just looking at this guy. Now remember, when you need to turn this on, you do need to hold the on-off button down for a couple of seconds to turn it on. And that will now boot up and do its little cycle, and it'll come up with 0 there. You've got grams and you've got newtons. I generally just make sure we're on grams. That's the GF setting there, and you change that by touching that little button. Other than that, there's nothing else to do. Now, I've got a standard L-style bobbin here, and I'm going to take that out and re-thread it. So you just take your bobbin case, pop your bobbin thread in the case as you normally would, the same way you would thread it when you're ready to sew or embroider. Make sure it's under the tension. In this case, this bobbin case has the little pigtail or squiggle there. Some bobbin cases don't have that, but just thread it the way you normally would, and then holding your bobbin correctly, pop it into the device, making sure that the latch of the bobbin is actually to the left of this little guide right here. Hopefully my head's not in the way. So there you go, that's how that sits. And then we have these series of little pulleys. And the thread comes around here, so I'll try and just keep this really still as I do this. thread comes around there, up around this pulley here, around that pulley, back up, and underneath that little pin. This little pin here is just to help you pull that thread through. And we just pull the thread relatively slowly, and we can see the measurements. You can see that's around about the 31 grams. If you pull it too quick, you might get some weird measurements, but I generally recommend, if I show you here, I'll move this a little bit to the left, and that's the speed that I pull that at. And I can see this bobbin is set at about 30 grams, which is in fact about ideal for most commercial style machines. If it wasn't, we can hold our bobbin, our Towa gauge up, and I can actually see, hopefully camera lady will let me know, we can see the little screw just there. That's the adjusting screw. You can access that without having to take the bobbin case out. Now watch what happens if I loosen that by, say, a quarter of a turn. Let's see what the difference is now. Look at that. What a significant difference. That's just about taking all the tension off the screw, off the thread. I do like to just occasionally hit the on-off button just to reset it all occasionally. So that's about 11 grams. So if you were sewing and you only had 11 grams of bobbin tension, you're going to get a really bad result. You're going to have bobbin thread coming up to the top of the fabric. Now let's go the other way and turn this screw back to where it was, and now I'll go around to the clockwise, or to the right, about a quarter of a turn. And now let's see what we've got. What a difference. So can you see if your bobbin, you might think it's in the right position, but if it's not and you're not got around that 30 grams, then you're going to get a bad result. If you were getting this much tension on your bobbin case, that's going to be a really, really tight stitch. In fact, what will happen is often the thread won't pick up, you won't get the stitching started because the bobbin thread will not travel through the bobbin case terribly well at all. Let's see if we can get back to 30 grams, so I'll loosen that back a quarter of a turn and see what we've got there. 38, so how about we go a little bit more? And sometimes it quite frankly is just the smallest of little turns, a 32nd of a turn. Look at that, we're almost there, maybe a tiny bit more. Now truthfully, 34 would probably be all right, 28 would probably be all right, but if the closer I can get to 30, yeah, I'm really happy with that, 31 grams. My tension is now set. So that means if you go to a different brand of thread or a different coloured thread or a different type of thread and you put it in your machine and it doesn't stitch very well, if you haven't checked your bobbin tension, it's probably the reason. And it doesn't matter what thread you've got, if you've got 30 to 30 odd grams, you're going to get a pretty good result. So that's how you use it on the L style bobbin. Now, I mentioned that little pin there too, and I should show you that. So that pin protects the thread as you're pulling it out, but it also, you'll see if I come to the top of that pin, I can pull that down and there's a little cutter there that will cut the thread for you. Removing it, just take the bobbin case out and you can now go pop that in your machine and away you go. So that's an L style. Now, before I go to the drop-in bobbin, I'll also mention there is an M style adapter, and that's this one here. Now the M style is a bigger bobbin case, so let me show you the comparison there. That's the M style adapter which we have in stock. There's an L style bobbin, and there's or bobbin case, and there's an M style bobbin case. Pretty significant difference. Now you're going to see the M style bobbin cases frequently on long arm quilting machines. You will never really see them on embroidery machines. So if you're a long arm quilter, you would probably want the M style adapter with that as well. Now I can't tell you exactly what the best tension is on the long arm quilter because I think that does vary a little bit depending on a few things, but once you have your machine humming along, measure where the bobbin tension is, and that's your starting point every time. So that's that adapter there. Now we're going to have a look at the little adapter that we made to convert the home machines, the drop-in bobbin cases, to work on the Towa tension gauge. So drop-in bobbin case. That's a typical example of what it looks like. First thing we would need to do is take the L style adapter out, and you'll see there is a little tiny black piece there that's spring loaded, and by pushing that across it releases the adapter. I'm just going to get my fingers, hopefully keep my fingers relatively out of the way, but we push that across, hopefully my head wasn't in the way, and that comes out. Now, I mentioned before, this is the newer style of the adapters that we have, and you'll also notice in the pack, if you do get one of these, there's a pink one as well. The white one is clearly labelled Brother, whoops, I'll put it around the right way, Brother and Janome, and the pink one is for Husqvarna and Pfaff. Now, that doesn't fit every bobbin case out there. It's just the bobbin cases, drop-in bobbin cases that are mostly the newer versions of machines over the last 10 or 15 years, and in the main they will work in these adapters. But nonetheless, we provide that pink and white adapter with each product we supply. Now, to put it in, we just pop it in under the little clips here. So the light's a little bit weird here, but there's a little clip there that it sits in under. Once it's in under that, all fingers here today, we just push it down and release the little lever there, and it clicks into place. So that adapter is now in position, and the bobbin case just simply sits in there. As I said, if you have one of the older style Towa gauges, you already might have this adapter, and it sits very flat and flush in this recess. But the newer adapters are just a little bit smaller on the recess, and that's why we had to redesign the way this little adapter works. And then we just take our bobbin case. There's a little fin on the bobbin case there. It sits in that slot and sits there like that. We take our A-style bobbin. In this case, that's what this particular bobbin case uses. We take our A-style bobbin case and we put it in as if we were threading it into the machine, and that is, it comes back on itself like so, and you just got to hold your finger there to get that into position, and then the thread travels around and follows the same path that we did for the L style. And again, we're going to be aiming for around 30 grams as a starting point. Now, I can tell you right now, it's a lot more than that. This bobbin case was brand new out of the pack, so it's out of the box. It's never been adjusted, but we'll see how easy it is to do. A little tip when you're sitting this down using this particular style of adapter, it's a good idea just to hold your fingers on the bobbin case like that. Don't touch the thread or the bobbin itself, and then just gently push that. And that's pretty tight. Would that work in your machine? Yes. Tension would be a bit tight. You might get a little bit of puckering, a bit of a pull stitch. And occasionally you'll find with a tight bobbin thread that the starting up stitching, the needle thread won't pick it up, and you'll get an error saying thread not, check threading, etc., or thread's broken. But I'm now going to adjust the bobbin tension on this. And on these guys, there's the screw right there. And so all we've got to do is adjust that, lefty loosey, righty tighty. So I'm just going to loosen that by about 1/4 of a turn and see what we get. See what sort of change was made there. It's a little bit lower, go a wee bit more. Another about 1/2 a turn there. Now we're getting down. And I'll repeat that to get to where I think I need to be, there. You know what, I'm kind of happy with that, 33, I'd be really happy with that. So that is the bobbin tension now set. Likewise, if I kept going there, you know, you'll see we'll see where that gets us to now. Look, we're down to 25, 24. If it's not right, we would now tighten it up a little bit, so about 1/4 of a turn there. A little bit more. See, it's not hard because you've got a scale, and as long as you use a bit of common sense, this is an easy thing to do. Now, little tip: if you start adjusting a bobbin case tension and nothing changes, you adjust the screw a full turn and nothing changes at all, there's a very solid chance that there's thread or lint or a bit of fluff caught in the tension spring between on the bobbin case itself, or in the case of an L-style bobbin, there would be a piece of foreign matter caught just under the tension spring. And if there is something caught in there, the spring can't close, you have no tension on the thread at all, and no amount of adjustment you do is going to save it until you get rid of that foreign matter. And remember also that bobbin cases are consumable products. They wear out and the springs lose tension over time. So sometimes they come to end of life, you just got to get another one. Always a good idea to have a spare bobbin case too. Another little free tip for you, definitely worth doing. So nonetheless, that bobbin case is now set. That's all there is to it. Take that out, we're ready to put that back in the machine and start stitching. Now, very recently, we were made aware of another adapter that I want to talk about, and that is the TM509, and this is a multi-adapter. So let's see how this one works. So the multi-adapter, the TM509, it replaces the need for these white ones, and they are available, and we do have them in stock, but it will allow you to use either most of the drop-in type bobbin cases that are on the market. So let's take this one out and we'll pop that one in. So again, we just release the little clip there and that comes out. And this guy, rather than having to clip it in, you'll see it's got a flat piece there. That sort of sits in that recess and then it just sits down like that, nice and easy. Take this bobbin out again, and the fin of the bobbin case just sits into this slot here, like so. And then we just load the bobbin like we normally would, round back into the tension. And it doesn't go through the little white wheel, that one there. So we bypass that altogether, but it does go through this little latch here. Comes around there. And then we can just measure the bobbin again. So let's just take that back to where we wanted it. Yeah, we're getting down 34, 33, that's fine. So that little adapter there is available, and whether you've got pretty much any of the drop-in type bobbins, it's going to work for you, so you can order that as an optional attachment. But we will continue to supply both the pink and the white one with the device as for the foreseeable future. Anyway, so that's it. That's how you use the Towa digital tension gauge. It's a great product, one of my favorites, and it allows you to master that bobbin tension that most people are terribly scared of, and you don't need to be. So as usual, any questions, just give us a bell, holler out, whichever way you would like to, and we will answer those for you. So until next time, happy sewing and embroidering.